says closed. I went that.
I'll have to double check with police.
Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
How are you?
Casey, know that we're waiting for
Okay. Thank you. Neighborhood Affordable Housing Advisory Board is called to order on December 12th. Welcome, everyone. Agendas of today's meeting are on the walls. We ask that each individual wishing to speak clearly state your name and spell your last name for the clerk. I will ask the board members to introduce themselves.
Camille Hepting, employers.
David Harder, construction industry and nonprofit.
I'm the board chair, Kevin Chenault, and I represent the nonprofit industry. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes of the board meeting from November 14th. May I have a motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Is there anyone here to speak on items not on today's agenda? If so, please subject that is not on today's agenda.
Thank you. I'm Beth. Thank all of you for your work and for being here. Holidays are not easy. But as we go into 2024, we keep learning as a group, and we're up to about 20 county commission represented. We had school board represented. We only have one. The inventory of innovative how those money seems to come because people need to do that. Habitat shouldn't have a free lot for one house, and we don't have a lot of land, and we have a lot of people that can't live here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item 4.1 is recommend to the City Council approval of the City of Clearwater's fiscal
department. So this is the CAPER. We produce that and are automatically pulled into the CAPER because of that. Okay, so the document pulls all that stuff in, and then we need to get into the stuff. Again, it's only federal stuff. So what we do with the narratives is we try to bring in report of our entire body of work for the and the interim year, which would be the closeout year the following year, we're required to have all of that money encumbered. So what we can't do with SHIP is allow a balance to build up, right? Because we kind of let the balance sit and build. And there's a lot more regulatory requirements with home too. So, you know, we prefer to use home for the larger projects and SHIP for kind of everything else, right? Just an example, we're putting $1.7 million in that, largely home money. Our annual allocation is $500,000. approximately $500,000. So obviously, we need to take compile that, or to add to that. We're required in our AAP to budget all of the home money as if we're going to spend all of it in the year, right, in the program year. We know we're not going to do that, but we still have to act as if we do, budget as if we do, plan for accomplishments as if we're going to spend all that. Very different numbers. Okay, so I'll go through that with you in a minute. Do you have any questions about any of that before we get into it? Okay. All right, so the first objective, during FY 22-23, City of Clearwater planned to assist 190 households with housing, homeowner education, home buyer education, to make a change. And we moved that activity to State Housing Initiative Partnership Funding Program. So we spent $0 in home money, in CDBG money, on that activity, and we helped 164. The next outcome, let's see. Construct 14 rental units. Okay, again, that's something there was actually one that we completed. It was Kimberly Home. We completed a unit for them. As you all know, they completed a unit there. We do have, and we did fund during the program year with SHIP, a rehab project of 48, actually no, we're talking about construction rental units. We'll get to that in a second. With rental units constructed, we have in the pipeline 278 units planned. We have our come out of the percent area median income. So that's a project we're looking forward to several times clear. And then we have another project, a home ownership project, the other 1280 AMI and below. I'm told that they are submitting for permits this month, so they're moving along. That's a very exciting project. I don't know at all.
To structure that needs to go into the project and finalize.
Their outcome. We did 10 with that later. We did 10 with that later. This is one of our staple programs is our active in that space. Assist 25 households with direct financial CPA program. Contract with the two organizations that do that service for us. It's because of the ARPA funding. ARPA funding was the local fiscal recovery funding that we got for community. We used a lot of that money in this area, and we were able to go up to 120 AM additional funds with tenant-based rental assistance. That's TBRA. We are finalizing a way that can't find a landlord. The affordable housing units that they create because they have to do mixed income to keep on the rate. A program, a grant program to help people with to us is a Capri mobile home park. We assisted. We really kind of led the effort at the beginning, bringing in the nonprofits, introducing them, and it kind of lingered a little bit until the money showed up, and then we were able to fund it thanks to a council decision. That's when we really started moving on it. Public facilities, public services programs. So real quickly, I'll kind of roll through what we did with public services. We're working on some office improvements with you all. That project was not completed. It will carry over to the new fiscal. Homeless emergency project. We had 3 projects, security improvements, and will carry over to the new fiscal. So we spent, nearly $734,000 on those 17 projects. In public, they service adults. Opportunity Council's chore program. Keep that moving forward. Homeless empowerment program. We helped them with their emergency. The last, it's not a real good fit for CDBG. We're really trying to figure that out, but it's challenged. Prospera, they do some great stuff, and also Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Corporation. They stand up the CATCH program, which is a really good. And about 10% of the folks we help are Hispanic. So these are the only 2 funding sources that really require us to track this, so we don't necessarily track it with SHIP as much. So in CDBG, this is a little misleading. We typically spend down the lion's share of our CDBG money, as it ended up showing. So spending 1.2, 1.3 really is, that's probably a little heavier than most years. And because of this, and to do that this year to meet our timeliness requirement. Home, again, as I mentioned earlier, we need to allow that money to bank up, and we have some large projects coming down the pike, which we're all very excited about. And this here is your state and local money. This is SHIP and Pinellas County Housing Trust Fund, and we typically spend that down pretty well, so that's not uncommon for us. and this really is reporting but to say we've only spent 7% of our funds in North Greenwood is not correct. It's just really how the projects are coded when they get entered. So this is not, so we don't match our expenditures, certain expenditures with 25% of a Pinellas County Housing Trust Fund matches towards home investments. And this, we call it, I just like saying that. Minority business enterprise, women business enterprises, we track that. That do qualify, but with the home funding, we did not, and this is a chart just for the home funding. So this year, there were none. And then we get into our CR20. Again, federal money. 5 represents single-family homes. Again, we have 278 units in the pipeline. 80 units with Archway, 173 units with 306 South Washington, 24 units with those funds. Income levels. Compare on that one. Very low, the numbers on the screen. Is that just the housing piece? Is that why? Because we serve quite a few. Obviously, in our public facilities, public services. I think what we're seeing, street outreach specialist, control over that with her working for us, I think has been some improvements. She has a lot of people that she works with, and she'll connect them with shelter housing for an evening. She's very committed to what she's doing. I sit on the Funders Council. The HLA, the Homeless Leadership Alliance, the Continuum of Care under their umbrella. They have a Providers Council and a Funders Council. And the Funders Council, of course, is made up of municipalities, local governments that can bring funding to the table. Pinellas Community Foundation is also, if drag me into that, I don't know. Also, on the board of the COC, we have Clearwater has a dedicated seat that's always been occupied by a council member. Most recently, for the last few years, it's been Ms. Kathleen Beckman. She's been elevated to board chair, which made that seat now available. So at the direction of the city manager, I've applied to take on that role. So I may very well be sitting on that board as well. But we do a lot of stuff in the area of homelessness, as you all know. And it's really our CDBG funds. Homeless person, again, we tackle that through CDBG. They assisted 1,016 people in their voucher program this year. Total expenditure of about $10.7 million. They assisted 200. They're very active. They're very good at what they do. I enjoy working with them. And they, if everything comes together, they will be a big part of the project at 306 South Washington. They will manage that project. So more to come on that. And then CR 35, other actions. And this talks a little bit about their funds. It talks a little bit about what you all do as a board on the NAHAB. Talks about your work on the AHAC. So this really just talks about some different things that we do. Requirement, we follow all of the rules. Anytime we do a rehab of any kind, we make sure that we're in compliance with legislation. In our world of I personally think we do better than our county neighbors. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Especially in to meet the outcomes. We are nonprofit world can really address directly. Our biggest need is affordable housing. More housing vouchers. That is one of the biggest issues to our homeless issue in the county is that fact that we have folks in our network that we cannot move out because of affordable housing. I have on our property on Druitt Road about 18 apartments a week. Issue and that really is the crux of what we're looking at. I have seen where other counties do not do that as well as Pinellas, and for the city for working towards encouraging that, and we thank you for that.
Yeah, the housing Peterman to do a housing study for us to identify the types of housing that we have. And really there's going to be a special work session with City Council on January 10th to present that report. And it's very important because the next session is monitoring the months. Typically, historically, we fund a project and we have land easy because there's a lien on the property. The property sells, qualifying person, right? So we really don't have to monitor that. It's kind of done through the process. It's the rental stuff that we need to monitor. The Live Local Act, the state legislature obviously has passed that act, and it's encouraging mixed income product, right? On the rental, doing any monitoring. Also we have our affordable housing density bonus. We've had folks take advantage of that without taking money. We had a assisted living facility was converted into housing, and there were too many units that weren't allowed by code. By getting a density boost, it put them in compliance. Now we have to manage those 15 units over the next 20 years, right? So we really need to kind of make some decisions on how we're going to go about it. We actually are in the contract.
Excuse me, Chuck.
Yes.
Of your
Housing projects, so they know the game. They're good at it. It makes it easy for us. What's difficult? I don't know the.
That description. I will say that this has been extremely helpful for me because as I was good, I mean, let's be honest, helps us comment, I guess, at this point is this makes me think that because this communications is always something that we talk about here with our that we're supposed to be doing. It might not look like it if you look at a document like this. And so my Clearwater.com that would have very simplified information, but that would just keep a record for each fiscal year. There's actual quantifiable information for the folks that are looking for water isn't using the money that it's getting from the state and the federal government. That would be, and I'm thinking really a simple dashboard that would have like just those numbers and can be updated, questions being asked. We know that we're all looking at the same numbers and more, when we're looking at those, I think you said 270 in affordable housing. If I'm closely or far away, find myself on the website and I don't are important.
Really kind of absorb this. Maybe we can have a discussion at this board to talk about.
I think that's a great idea.
How our solid waste folks about recycling, and there's others. So they really like the format of it.
Okay.
So
I'm looking at it.
how we.
Thank you. And information.
Yep, I will communicate with the board. I'll make sure you have.
No public comment because it is a work session, but I think it's still attend.
Going to be excellent information, and certainly we can debrief at the following NAHED.
The board. Side.
I just have a question on why it's 2022,
Ma'am?
You gotta come up.
Fiscal year 22-23 began in October, September 30th. So this CAPER is a report of that year. So, and it's funny too, when we talk about fiscal years in the city, like the current fiscal year we're in, we call it fiscal year 24. HUD calls it program year 23. So it's
Thank you. Ms. Call, do we have any comments on this item?
Making sure nothing came in.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no further public comment, I am open to a motion to approve this item.
I'll make a motion to approve this item.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 4.2 on the agenda is the discussion of the performance. Ms. Diane Perez, will present this item.
Hello, I'm Dania Perez.
Perez, Perez. There it is. All right, so this is,
So Don, if I could just, this is in response to a board request of Denise Anderson.
you gotta turn on the mic.
Huh?
See if your mic is on.
Test? I think it is. Okay. And following this, we'll be coming back to you quarterly, per your request.
Thank you.
Homeless individuals and families. They have an adult emergency shelter and they $693 and they spent their funds. They were wanting, their goal was 600 persons. They reached 259. They did have some difficulties. The case manager over the grant resigned in October 2022, so that, that takes time to find someone for the right position. I spoke with them and and what he was saying, finding affordable housing was a challenge within the city of Clearwater that met, because they're working with people that their AMI is not at 80 and possibly, 30% or lower. So it was very difficult to find housing for people that could afford, for persons that could afford the rental prices that they are right now for a very low income. And also there are challenges with clients with like I just said, low income backgrounds and poor credit made it difficult to secure permanent housing in addition to the housing, the cost of housing. And they receive salary support to provide emergency shelter and critical support services for their adult emergency homelessness shelter. So then we have interculture advocacy. That's the Hispanic Outreach Center, and they also receive CDBG. They received $17,437. They used up their funds. Their goal was 60 people, and they served 55. I think that's a win. So, and they didn't report any difficulties. And they have a great program as well. Identify Hispanic students from 6th to 8th grade who are doing well in school and have leadership potentials and interests to go on to post-secondary and they follow students through graduation. And they do a lot of things with the kids. They have field trips and they just really, I guess I'm not supposed to be biased, but I like their program. They do well with the children and the families and helping them. They guide their parents on colleges and give them information and stuff like that so they don't feel like, I don't know what to do to help their children. Then we have Pinellas Opportunity Council. POC is what we call it. They also received CDBG funds, well, everybody did. So $17,437 is what they were awarded. They used up $1353.99. Their goal was 28 persons, and they assisted 23 persons. They had difficulties. Their employee left in November of 2022 for various reasons, and throughout the year, POC had difficulties time rehiring. They also faced many challenges with their clients, canceling, not answering the phones, and their employees would show up and they wouldn't answer the door, things like that. POC has a shore service program. I'm sad to report that they did not apply for next year. I think they help senior citizens, and I think it's a great program, but sadly I don't know why they didn't apply.
So the person that managed that program, she did a fantastic job. She was a champion of it. She managed most aspects of it. She's retired, and that's really where we're at. We've helped a lot of people through this program. We've coupled this with rehabs. We're going to do rehab, and we can't because the home is there's just stuff everywhere. And these people come in and they help manage that and they help get that cleaned up so we can actually help someone with the home rehab. And it's not just limited to the rehab program. This is a really good program. And hoping we can find a way to get it to continue somehow, some way.
Yeah, it's a very much needed program, and I was disappointed to see that they did not apply this year because the need is there so much. So I appreciate you guys looking at that and seeing if we can, if there's any way to help continue that, or maybe maybe somebody else would be willing to pick it up if Pinellas Opportunity Council is not willing to. So it is a much-needed service.
The ARC at Tampa Bay, they received 10,462. They used up 10,462. They were estimated to serve 22 person. They served 27. Their difficulties was training, education, staff on the process of completing interventions, getting residents, guardians to sign and take forms for the grant, and we ended up working through that and working with staff, ensuring they are tracking and documenting services delivered for the grant, and discharge of residents due to multiple issues and infractions. So funding was provided for salary support for, this is the Waterfall Apartment Program, which provides semi-independent living for adults diagnosed with intelligence or development disabilities. Waterfall residents receive classes and support for activities such as, they do a lot of things with them. They do transportation, they take them to doctors, grocery shopping, management, their financing, general health and safety, housekeeping. They work on socialization skills and community outings. They help arrange transportation to and from work, and they also provide educational classes like seminars on artwork, just a little bit of everything. And they did well. They did really well too. Any questions on the ARC? Kimberly Home. So the Kimberly Home received 10,462, and they used up their funds. They wanted to assist 30 people. That was their goal. They ended up assisting 18 persons. They had some difficulty seeking and maintaining the right person to fill the residency advocacy position, which has been a challenge for them. They received funding for salary support to work with pregnant women and new moms 18 and older who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. The goal of the program is to ensure the clients leave with gained knowledge, self-confidence, and life skills to succeed on their own with their babies. So hopefully, they'll be able to resolve that, because it's also a good program that's needed. West Care Gulf Coast, Florida. They were granted 17,437. They expended 14,437. Their goal was 96 persons, and they ended up serving 106. They did not report any difficulties at this time. They received funding for salary support for their Turning Point program as an emergency intervention shelter, and so they received their facilities to provide emergency shelter services for homeless adults with substance use problems, many of whom also have co-occurring mental health problems. Prospera, this is part of our economic development CDBG. Public service project. So we funded them $50,000, and they used $10,825. Their goal was to help 20 businesses, and they ended up helping 10 businesses. They have been having a lot of difficulties finding the right businesses that fit the CDBG grant guidelines, because remember, CDBG grant, not only do they have to be within the city limits of Clearwater, their income cannot exceed over 80% median family income limits. So that proposed an issue for the businesses. So some clients within the city limits of Clearwater did not meet the grant requirements. So they still serviced them, they just couldn't bill through the grant with them. Had difficulties finding potential clients within the city of Clearwater that met the grant requirements, and had several staff changes and faced reoccurring challenges which affected the grant year. However, these challenges that they have been resolved. So he does have a team right now, and I've been working with them. So they seem great. They're starting to bill. I train them on the whole process, and they are getting out there and being proactive and trying to find Clearwater businesses. So, but at the end of the day, it's still a challenge.
Yeah, they're a terrific organization. I mentioned that in my CAPER presentation. Economic development, in CDBG, it's a tough match from a regulatory perspective. We're not going to give up on it. work in it because it's important. We spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money subsidizing housing. It's a multi-pronged fork, and one of those prongs needs to be helping people earn more money, and that's really the objective on the economic development side.
So now we have Tampa Bay Black Businesses Investment Corporation. They were also funded $50,000, and they used $9,000. They wanted to service 25 businesses, and they were able to service 9 businesses. Tampa Bay BBIC, they struggled to meet the grant requirements, and they received support for salary support and activity delivery costs to deliver services and supporting small businesses. They do have the CATCH program that Chuck mentioned earlier, 15-week enterprise and training program. They also provide technical assistance, training seminars that cover tax planning, business financing, and wealth management.
And this group, they decided not to apply in the coming year, and that may be appropriate at this time. We kind of need to reset with them and really figure out a way for us to work with them. But that CATCH program is something I think we always wanted to be part of. It's a good program, so I don't think we've seen the last of them.
And then with CDBG, the clients have to report so much information, and a lot of business people didn't understand why and didn't really want to report certain things, and I think that's also that holds a challenge as well. So then we have Clearwater Neighborhood Housing Services. This is SHIP funding. So they received $24,000, and they used up $20,275. They wanted to help 133 home households, and they helped 106 households. Clearwater NHS did not report any difficulties in completing these activities. Then we have Tampa Bay Community Development Corporation, Homeownership Education and Counseling Services, and also received SHIP funds, $18,000. They used up $6,975. They wanted to help 100 households. They ended up helping out 58 households. Their difficulties that they encountered were current market prices, low inventory, and high interest rates. So it made it very difficult for someone to encourage people to want to buy a house. So, and Suncoast reported that they had seen 74 households within the city of Clearwater. However, 16 households did not meet their grant requirements, so they weren't able to bill them or use them as people that they assisted. I think it's safe to say that probably Tampa Bay Neighborhood Housing Services probably sees the same types of challenges within the industry.
I would definitely concur that. There's the interest rates and the purchase price of homes. It's really very discouraging for a lot of families to look at the market and think they even have a chance at pursuing home ownership. And so one of the biggest struggles, I think, for all homebuyer education and counseling programs is really how do you encourage families in this current market environment to find a place where they can pursue that home ownership. And that's a lot of extra work, and it's a lot of work with the families on the counseling side.
It is, because people get discouraged and they give up.
Yeah.
But not realizing that if they just keep working the program, keep working on their credit report, keep saving money, eventually things will change, and then they'll be ready instead of having to start
over again. Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of, helping them understand that, which is difficult.
And just for clarification, both of those programs get funded by the number of clients they served. That's why their funding, the allocation and the amount received was less than their funding.
So now we're going to jump into public facilities and improvements. So we have directions for living, funding provided to upgrade the elevator. So it was CDBG, they received $89,107, and the project is still in progress, so I just put what we had spent already, which was $21,470. Their numbers, they wanted to assist a total of 5,910 persons. They have so far exceeded that. I hope, you know what, that might be a typo on my end. I'm going to say it's 1,387. Directions from like, thanks, Tanya. No. So then they have, they're in progress. So, and their agreement executed on January 13, 2013. And as of right now, there aren't any difficulties. Well, I take it back. That working with the contractor has been a challenge. So DFL's Clearwater Center has approximately 500 to 1,000 people entering the building daily to receive counseling, medication management, and pharmaceutical services. Safe elevator operations are critical for ensuring clients, visitors, and staff can access various areas and departments in the agencies, including services that are provided on the higher floors. So it's very important they have a working elevator. Then we have HEP, Homeless Empowerment Project. Funding provided to rehab housing units at 1357 Park Street Apartments. So this project has been completed. They were funded $90,000. They spent $90,000. They completed 8 units, and their contractor was Handyworks Property Services. And difficulties encountered, the contractor had difficulties locating shower enclosures. 4 out of 5 fiberglass showers enclosures were cracked, and other supplies were damaged. So I'm sure they fixed it, but it's a process. And I got some pictures, so I was happy about that. And that is their bathroom. And, did you guys see the before and after?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have the before and after stairwells. That's underneath it. So you can see it was all rusty, and they fixed it up, made it safe. And that's what it looks like, which I think is pretty. And then we have the homeless emergency yes, they had more than one project. Sorry, that threw me off. So this was for 1211 and 1215 North Betty Lane. So they were funded $50,000. They spent $40,680. They wanted to assist 24 persons, and they assisted 40 persons, and the project just completed. They also used Handyworks, and HEP did not report any difficulties during this project. HEP again also for their 1200 North Betty Lane received funding for $65,493. They spent all their funds available. They wanted to help 900 persons, and they reported 107 persons. This project has been completed, and they also did not experience any difficulties during this project. Clearwater Neighborhood Housing Services. So their main office improvements is what they're working on. Also CDBG, they received $180,000. Right now it's in progress, and they have spent $75,998. I'll be getting another job request soon. And they wanted to assist 125 persons, and they will be currently reporting these numbers to me soon. And their agreement executed in November 2nd, 2022. Their contractor is Arrow Homes. Their difficulties is contractor obtaining the unique identifier number. It's a UEI number with SAMS.gov, so they had a hard time doing that. A lot of contractors have a hard time with SAMS.gov. And Clearwater NHS was unsatisfied with the window installment, but they made sure to get that corrected, and it's been corrected, and now we can move forward. Society of St. Vincent de Paul, Community Kitchen Facilities Rehab at 135 Park Street. They received 120 Park Street, which was an emergency roof report. Their goal was to serve 1,835 persons. Within the time frame, because it was quick, 638. In all fairness, the faster the job, it's going to be the less people.
And they'll continue to
Yes.
help people with that project.
Exactly. So then we have the Handiworks Property Services worked on it, and they did not have any difficulties with this project. And I'm sure Chuck can speak towards this. We had the City of Clearwater did the Elks Lounge, so we did a demo in asbestos, and that was for $127,190. As of now, they expended $46,252. I put the project as a process because I don't have it closed out yet, but it's done. It's the CDBG, like the back stuff that I got to complete.
It's complete, it's not closed out. They actually spent less money than they needed to, than we gave them, so we actually transferred all that money over to their code, to that department, so we need to get some of that money back, but it's done, and hopefully we can get some meaningful development on that site.
Then we have Art Club. They had painting improvements, Breeden at $12.35. So our funding was provided for the Breeden Early Learning Academy for repainting to help protect the interior of the building, to protect the exterior of the building, and to beautify the interior, enhancing the child care facility and encouraging families to enroll for their young children. So they were awarded $43,680. They spent $21,971. The project is completed. Their goal was to help 69 persons. They ended up helping 83. They use ADA painting company, and their difficulties were to ensure that Pinellas County Schools paint requirement, was approved. And then there was some delays with the Pinellas schools regarding the paint type. And then they had delays with SAMHSA registration from the contractor. So it was fun all the way around. But it was all worked out.
Pinellas County Schools owns the property.
Yeah.
And they have their own permitting process. They don't go through the city. So that's created some challenges along the way in trying to help with this facility, because we've tried to do a number of things at this facility. But we'll get there.
Yeah. So it worked out. So, any questions?
Any questions from the board, comments? Ms. Perez, I just want to thank you for this presentation. It's good to see the results. And yes, I don't know if it's possible, but maybe as we look into the scoring for future years, we might be able to include some scoring aspect of previous performance, so that we can at least look at what this has done. I know all of them meet performance, but there may be a time when there's not, so I don't know if we can include something in previous performance and scoring or whatever, but it would be good to at least look at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then for the public facilities, we should be fair because some projects end sooner than others.
Right.
So maybe take a look at that, incorporate that as well.
And I think I already made my comments on chore services, but this gives us a good picture of what is being done in the community. It is not a full picture. Just a reminder that there are many programs that impact this population who do not seek city funding, but yet are very vital to making the success of all of our programs successful. But thank you, and we will look forward to your quarterly reports as we move forward. Thank you.
So with the quarterly reports, of course, we're coming up on the end of the first quarter, right, December 31st. We give our subrecipients until the 10th of the following month to provide the reports, so that's January 10th. So we wouldn't be able to give you a report until the February NAHAB meeting, so that's when you can expect the first quarter report.
Thank you.
I have a question, Chuck. Maybe you can answer that. So since we have two agencies that are not applying this year, POC and Tampa Bay BBIC, do we know, because I know in years past we had kind of the same agencies applying over and over again, and then we had a discussion maybe last year or the year before about how do we encourage new not-for-profits organizations to apply. And so does these two not applying open a an opportunity for maybe new agencies that we haven't worked with before to apply for those funds.
So we're going to try something a little bit different in this application cycle, and it's a great question. Our portfolio of CDBG, we do a lot of stuff. There's a lot of agreements that we have, many more than most municipalities. So we got a lot of little chunks of stuff, and it makes the caper a nightmare. So it's, and one of the things how to encourage is that the funding, who is it? Is that the funding is used, not to just, not for operating every year for the same organizations, but to encourage new stuff, right? So what we're going to try to do is make a little bit of a change, have fewer subrecipients, fund more money, but give value to the ones that are bringing new services to our community. It's kind of a shame because some of the folks that have come to us year in and year out are great service providers, and they may be the losers in that.
Right.
But to bring new stuff to our citizens, and it'll be really interesting for the technical review committee because you'll have an opportunity to really evaluate impact, because that's how we're going to look at this, impact. And it'll be easier for us to manage with fewer subrecipients. So we're going to do that on the public services side and the public facilities side. If we're going to give you this money, what are you going to bring to our residents that isn't currently being provided? Now, it can be an existing program that expands its program and helps more people. That's fair. It can be something entirely new. So as we go through the year and we meet different folks and different nonprofits, we'll let them know what we're trying to achieve. So, yeah, great question.
And just a reminder that this was for fiscal year 2022 and 2023. For the fiscal year we're now currently in, there were some new applicants.
Excellent.
And I believe we actually contracted, we'll find out in February how they're doing, but we did contract with a couple new applicants and had new applicants come in that process. Any other comments on this item on the agenda?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I look at some of the contract amounts, $10,000, $12,000, and I just cannot imagine the amount of work that your staff has with a contract amount that small, with that many contracts. So I applaud you for all of the work that you do to get those funds out in the street with those amounts. And I do like the idea of you focusing, on larger contract amounts. Common term in larger construction projects are subs, where the prime electrical contractor will hire subcontractor electrical contractors. Is there a way to encourage some of these smaller nonprofits to contract with larger nonprofits to make it easier contractually with you? And still provide a lot of those services, or does that become just as unwieldy for you?
No, that's a good question, because we would be partnering with, the top one,
Right.
if you will, and the subs, the reporting them directly to us is not like it would be for the prime.
Right.
So yeah, that's an interesting concept to encourage folks to even bring teams together with application.
Right.
We do that with development RFPs and stuff like that. So that's a great point. That's something that we can add to, when we talk to our subrecipients about what they can bring to the table. I kind of like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
It's just a thought, so.
And this is something that I believe we discussed in previous years of the NAHAB, to say, there are some of the recipients that are well-versed in all of the things that are needed. And one of the barriers to entry, if we want to call it that, is that the new recipients or the potential new recipients may not know about all these, detail. They may not have a team of the same size. They might not be able to spend as much time filling out all the paperwork and all these things. And we had talked about having some sort of forum where the people that have received funds in previous years could kind of like share their experience and maybe open it up to that opportunity to say, let's apply together so that we can, instead of both having to do the work, we can only have to do the work once, and then it'll benefit more people in the end. So I don't know if that's something that we've done before, where we've kind of had them meet and kind of exchange information and knowledge and ask questions and things like that.
No, I like that. Yeah, I don't know that we've really done exactly that.
Right. Because at the end of the day, this process can be seen as a competitive process because there's only a finite amount of dollars that is going to be given out. But the truth is, all of these dollars are meant to serve this community. And so at the end of the day, if we look at it as we have one common goal instead of we're, competing for dollars, then those dollars are going to go further. If there's one contractor that can take over 3 projects, it's going to make it a lot cheaper per project than it would be if they did it individually with individual contracts.
Right, I like that, thank you.
Even if the opportunity, especially on some of these, on the facilities improvement programs, the opportunity to share the challenges that previous recipients have had, so that maybe before a recipient applies, they know what those challenges are, so they can actually build that into their proposal.
Maybe a primer course on how to apply for SAMS.gov
Right,
registration
exactly.
number.
Exactly. I'll do a webinar on how to apply. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 5, Director's Report. Mr. Lane, do you have anything additional you'd like to report this morning?
A lot of the stuff I wanted to report, I talked about during my presentation, the work we're doing with Florida Housing Corporation for the monitoring, that's important for us. The SB Friedman report, I'll get you information on that between now and the meeting date to give you the opportunity to attend. The Archway project, tax credit project, 81 units, going to start break ground hopefully in March. 1454 South MLK, the project between Tampa Bay Neighborhood Housing Services, Habitat for Humanity, they're submitting, I believe, this month. So we would expect construction later this year, maybe shortly after Archway starts construction, that timeline. 306 South Washington, there's a critical decision to be made by the Clearwater Housing Authority. I expect that very shortly. See where we are with that. Getting a lot of Live Local Act activity, people coming to us, trying to figure out what they can do, kind of a kick and tire kind of thing. But I do anticipate getting some projects. We had a tax credit developer come in. There's a tax credit application coming up due this month, I believe, that leverages the Live Local Act. And we have a potential project not far, really in the neighborhood of the hospital to our south. 80, I believe, I think it's 100 units, or over 100 units, all under 80 AMI. That could be very impactful for that neighborhood. And there's another project that came to us, was going to be, it is a market rate project. They did some, and it's on the trail in our downtown CRA. They did some geotechnical work. It's going to add some costs to their project. So they came to us to see if there was some potential funding. So if they do it, we talked about a 10% set aside for affordable housing. The project, I think, is 53 units, somewhere in that neighborhood. So we're talking about maybe 5 units of affordable housing. We'd connect them with the Clearwater Housing Authority, so you'd have voucher recipients in that program. Hopefully the CRA will be able to help with that, because it's on the trail. We just don't seem to have enough amenities on the trail. And to have a new development on the trail with a mixed use and some retail product that is compatible with trail use would be an exciting development. So working on that, more to come on that. But other than that, we're still working it, and a lot going on. So
Thank you, Mr. Lane.
thank you for your input.
Next item on the agenda is board members. Do any board members have any final words or comments before we adjourn?
Just to wish everybody happy holidays, happy New Year.
Ditto.
This concludes our business for the day. Our next NAHAB meeting is scheduled for January 9th, 2024. And I would also like to wish everybody a happy and safe New Year. This meeting is adjourned.